I don't really need to introduce this, do I? The Morris Minor, everybody's favourite classic. You can't go wrong with them, Morris, really. They fit into your life very easily, and they're practical classics. Parts are easy to get, they're cheap to run. They're easy to own, really, if you've got a decent one. But it's not all plain sailing, so what do you need to know if you fancy life with a Morris? Well, there are two things that'll kill you financially in a Morris. Body rot and the front suspension, which could literally kill you. So the front suspension, you've got old-fashioned trunnions. They do need to be greased regularly, or you can get a problem where they literally shear off and wheel tucks under the car, and it's just not safe. Luckily, it does happen at lower speeds, but it's just a safety critical item that you just want to make sure previous owners have done it, and you want to make sure you keep up with the greasing, or pay the garage to do it. But the other thing is the body rot. Because these are cheap cars, they were cheaply made, and they're affordable to buy now, but the cost of restoring the body can just outstrip anything else. Running gear, basic A-series, you don't really need to be frightened of that. But sort of anywhere on the car, really, can rust. These were an early unitary monocoque body shell, and so a lot of it is double-skinned. And certainly on the saloon, you just need to be aware that people's previous patch repairs probably won't hack it in the long term, and you should think about having it cut out and done properly. And of course, for extensive repairs, you really want the jig that the specialists will have. Front wings are bolt-on, and there is a lot you can do without getting into big cost, but it's just worth keeping an eye on the solidity of the body shell, especially because these cars are old enough now that they don't need to be MOT'd. So you may choose to take it for an MOT, but previous owners might not have bothered, so grimness might be hiding from out of sight. The Traveller, I should mention, the rear woodwork, as most people know, is actually structural on the Traveller. It's a little bit like the van. It's a sort of hybrid saloon and chassis. If you've got a Traveller with woodwork that's sound, and you can tell that by squeezing it, if it feels squidgy and soft, yeah, you probably want to replace it. But if it's solid and sound and just a little bit mildewy, you can clean it up nicely. Everybody's got their preferred way of doing it. You either clean it up with a sort of wire wool and you oil it, or you use yacht varnish, or whatever works for you. The key is to keep an eye on it and keep it nice. Really, the Traveller isn't one to leave out in the winter weather. The water sits on it and the timbers deteriorate. And yes, you can buy a new kit of timbers, and it doesn't seem that expensive when you look at the prices, but you do need to know what you're doing when you fit it. You either need to be a competent carpenter, joiner, or you need to be a Morris Minor specialist. And I've watched it being done, and I've helped people do it in the past in specialist workshops, and it's really not that easy. It's a whole complicated business to try and get it lined up, and of course then you need to get the doors to shut. So with the Traveller, just be aware of that wood. But the saloon, pretty good, and the convertible, obviously, the top is not the most complicated top ever. It's not a multi-layered sort of golf convertible BMW type of affair. You can basically take a roof off and put a new one on, in an afternoon. Well, there's not a lot of it inside, is there really, the Morris? The dashboard's mainly just painted metal. The early side valve cars, they actually had a sort of Art Deco kind of dashboard, but most of the Morris Thousands you'll be looking at, plain painted dashboard, only a few switches. I remember I had a 68 Traveller I drove for quite a while, and my nephew said to me, "Uncle Paul, how do you know what switch does what?" Well, to be honest, there are only two of them. One's the lights and one's the wipers. If it's tatty, it's quite easy to buy the parts to tidy it up. It's really satisfying. You can buy a carpet set, you can buy new door cards, you can buy seat covers. You just take the covers off the old seats. If you're feeling keen, you can even put new padding in and button it all back together again, and you'll have a Morris that looks like new. You can get a new parcel shelf, and it all feels a lot brighter and tidier inside, and it's easy to do yourself on the driveway at home without any special knowledge really, and just basic hand tools. Not a lot of it inside, is there? Got no radio to worry about. People normally fit the radio in the glove box, save drilling holes. They tell me that on these videos, we should cover the various trim options, but you basically got Rexine or Rexine. Those are your options. You got different colours, of course, but the red always looks nice with the white bodywork. I think this is the original colour with the blue body, but yeah, it's all basically vinyl. The seating. You've got different quality carpets you can buy, but yeah, it's very much up to you what you choose to do. The interior of the Traveller is a little bit different because you've got to make sure you get the right hardura floor, but people just use carpet offcuts generally. For practicality, the saloon is fine. You can get 4 adults in the saloon. You can get 5 really for a run to the pub and back. But you do want to have seatbelts. None of them have got seatbelts in the rear, and you can have seatbelt mountings fitted to the front. You can have them properly welded into the A pillar, or you can have the lap belts. it's a nice thing to have, really, seatbelts these days. Yeah, you've got a good boot on the saloon, but you know, if you want ultimate practicality, the Traveller is the one to go for. You get the dogs in there and all your junk. I mean, they really are practical. They're about as practical as a Berlingo, frankly. The convertible is just as practical as the saloon, really, because the roof folds down like the Golf on top of the bodywork, so you've still got the same boot. They were actually a conversion of the saloon in the factory. Yeah, and Morris will do, what, 40 miles to the gallon, you know, if you drive it gently. Yeah, you know, the brakes might feel a bit 1940s, but you get used to that. Don't drive it too madly and you won't end up in the ditch. They are a practical car to own, actually, as long as you consider the fact that it is an old car, and if you leave it out in winter weather, it will deteriorate. Running costs, well, they don't really come cheaper to run than a Morris Minor. You'll get 40 to the gallon from a Morris, you know, unless you drive it like an absolute lunatic or it's hopelessly out of tune. Tyres are cheap, you know, parts really aren't that expensive, and as you'll see later on, they're cheap to insure. So what's it like to live with a Minor? Well, you've got to remember that they're a 1940s car, late 40s car originally, and some of those design elements, you know, do shine through still. But, you know, just remember that and you'll be fine. Don't expect modern levels of performance, even from the 1098,000. The brakes, all drums. So the original brakes in a Morris can be a little bit thought-provoking, frankly, especially if you haven't got seatbelts. A lot of people convert them simply to power assistance with a remote servo, and that actually improves them quite a lot, but it can make them a little bit snatchy at low speed, especially in the wet. So if you sort of stamp on them in traffic, you just find they momentarily lock up and people look at you to see where the squeals come from. But it does make them a lot more confidence inspiring. I'd say that's really the place where the Morris falls down in modern traffic, is just the brakes. They will stop you, but they just don't feel like they're going to. And if you regularly jump out of more modern cars, you know, it can catch you out, to be honest, no matter how experienced you are with old cars. But you know, you can drive around it, and if you're used to old cars, you know, chances are you'll be fine with it, you know. The other thing you notice is the typical BMC clutch action, which in traffic can become a bit sort of wearing, because there's a long clutch pedal travel, but all the action happens right close to the floor. It's something I always notice about BMC cars of this vintage, but you know, it's just something you get used to. Other than that, you've got the rack and pinion steering, which the Morris was famed for, which, you know, makes it nice and easy to place on the road. You've got a lovely light gear shift as well. It's quite precise, the Morris gear shift. And, you know, they're easy to drive, you know, in every day. But there's no synchromesh first. I just had to stop for a dog walker. So you either get practiced with the old double D-clutch technique into first, or you avoid mini roundabouts, frankly. You do find a lot of people tend to slip the clutch a lot. If the cars are driven a lot in town conditions, and you know, so you can often find that these Minors have got quite a juddery clutch action because it's just been slipped so much. But you don't have to do that. Just practice your gear shift technique, you know, you'll be fine. The trouble is, they didn't have many roundabouts in 1948, so you know, it wasn't an issue back then. There's something about a Morris though, I wouldn't say it drives like a modern car like we often do, but it drives enough like a modern car to make it easy enough to master. And there's actually a satisfaction to be gained from driving a Morris smoothly as well. Like, we've just come up behind a cyclist here, just got down into second, and you know, off we go. Cheers. You get the lovely little fart on the overrun as well, which could only ever be a Morris Minor. You know, you can hear one coming from several streets away. There you go. Oh. The convertible is, you know, it's a really nice car. It's 4 seats, of course. You know, no seatbelts in the back, no, but you know, it's a proper open car. It's funny, really, the Morris is always, of course, inevitably compared to the Beetle, and I grew up owning Beetles, and a good friend of mine had Morrises. We used to go down to Cornwall, be neck and neck on the M5. You come to a motorway gradient, the Morris would inch ahead. On the flat, the Beetle would inch ahead, you know, and that's the difference in the two cars. You know, the Beetle was designed to go flat out forever, and the Morris was a little bit more flexible. But of course, you know, we get to Cornwall and he'd be checking the oil and water anxiously, whereas, you know, I'd just park my Beetle up and leave it. And, you know, you've got to remember that you know, these weren't built to the standard of the German cars. You know, the panel gaps aren't anything like as good, and the whole bodywork feels a little bit more flexible, and, you know, a Minor in good condition, especially a 1098 Morris 1000. It's got enough go to keep up with modern traffic, actually. On the motorway, you can feel a little bit dwarfed by the trucks, you know, but in most cases, you won't notice the fact that it's only got 40-odd horsepower. As for which model to choose, well, we're just going uphill a bit now, which has reminded me that the Side valve cars are probably best left to the collectors. They're lovely, but they are a bit underpowered. So the A-Series models are the one you want. The early A-Series, again, they're probably best left to real Morris buffs. But the 948cc A-Series or the 1098 from 1960 onwards, they're the ones to go for. I'd go for the 1098 Morris 1000. If you can afford one, get a Traveller. They really are useful. Otherwise, just get the saloon, or the convertible if that's your thing. Traveller and convertible, you really want to be keeping them in a garage. But the saloon, you can leave it out in the winter under a cover probably. But whatever you get, do fit seatbelts to it, please. It just doesn't feel right without them. Yeah, get a brake servo conversion or a disc conversion if you really find that you're struggling with the brakes. But otherwise, just learn to live with it and enjoy the car. Yeah, you didn't get sat-nav in any of the Morris Minors, that wasn't an option.
He's not close.
Just an OS map and, occasionally asking a friendly gent on a bike